All right, folks, welcome to another edition of our IBZ MEIE Lunch and Learn series. Today, I'm going to be talking about setting goals. Within this next hour or so, I'm going to go over some basics and then dive into OKRs, which is the type of goal framework that we use in the incubator here. And then happy to take any questions if anyone has any. So quickly setting the expectations on here. I'll talk about different concepts and methodologies related to goal setting, specifically through OKRs. And at the end of the day, the purpose is really for you to ascertain, does the framework that I'm talking about, or just the concepts that I'm talking about, can they be applied to your venture, your life? Is that the right fit for you? Not going to say that what frameworks I'm talking about are going to be the right one for everyone. There's not one size fits all. However, hopefully this will at least expand your knowledge of certain topics. So quickly as an introduction, just to have a quick definition, goals. These are the object of a person's ambition or effort, an aim or desired result. And goals are really targeted objectives that are set to be achieved. You want to get things done, in other words. So I want to throw this out to folks on here. Feel free to unmute or throw your answers in the chat. Why do we need to set goals? Why are they important? Are they important? So yeah, a big part is, this is a very abstract drawing of an entrepreneur. You've got a million different things, and you could probably say this is the same for a student too, a million different things, a lot of irons in the fire. You're trying to get things done, whether it's for the course, for your venture, for life, whatever it may be. Now, usually you're not just a solopreneur, you're working with others. So you throw them in the mix. Now you've got 4 or 5, maybe 30, 100, whatever, of people all with the same thing. They've all got different things they need to achieve, things that they all need to achieve together, all these sort of things that you need to figure out. And when your team grows, the number of these people just keep multiplying. So think of this put it to 40, 400, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what goals do and they help is when you've got all that uncertainty, any insights, patterns, unsure what your next moves are, they help bring some clarity to that, some focus, because there are only 24 hours in the day. You do need some of them to sleep, and you all have different skill sets. So how can you best apply all those different factors into getting things done? So how can we make and set goals? Well, there's numerous different frameworks. You've got SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. By the way, I think I had that in the description that we talked about it. Changed my mind, but feel free to look it up. And that being said, I feel like most people probably have already interacted with SMART goals. Then there's management by objectives, BHAGs, KPIs, goal pyramids, et cetera, et cetera. The one framework, though, that we're going to talk about for this session today is objective and key results, OKRs. Now, I also recommend for all of you, take some time to look at some of these different frameworks. You might find that, SMART goals or MBOs might be better than OKRs for you, for your team. So, keep that in mind when you're thinking about frameworks. There isn't, again, one size fits all. Everyone has their own way of their own way of executing, or their team has their own culture and way of executing. So look into these frameworks. So actually, before I get into OKRs, any questions about goals or anything I've talked about so far? All right, cool. Jump to things. So OKRs, objectives and key results. So essentially, this is a goal management framework that helps organizations bridge the strategy execution gap by bringing your people and their work and what they do together towards achieving a common objective. Pretty straightforward. You're trying to figure out how to get things done. Or in layman's terms, it's all about execution. It's one thing to plan, it's one thing to theorize, but at the end of the day, for example, if you're doing customer discovery, it's getting out of the building, it's talking to people, and it's figuring out, okay, who do we talk to? How many do we need to talk to? What does this look like? What are we setting up for ourselves? Those sort of things. Now, the anatomy of an OKR is 3 parts: objectives, key results, and initiatives. The objectives are basically where you want to go, your direction. Your key results are what are the measurable, quantifiable outcomes. so you know whether you've succeeded or failed in your objective. And the initiatives are the steps. What do you need to do? What are the actions, the projects, whatever it may be, that you need to take to achieve that objective, to hit those key results that you've set? Now, OKRs are separate from your startup vision and mission. Instead of just words and a belief, the purpose of OKRs really is to turn those missions into milestones. And there are two types of OKRs. There's company and then team and objective OKRs, or sorry, team and individual OKRs. For the company one, these are really for your entire organization. So if you have a startup, you're going to have your company OKRs. These are going to reflect the 3 to 4 things typically that your company needs to achieve in the next 12 months. So these are very much set in stone of, okay, what is our overarching goal? Now, team and individual OKRs, these are a bit more micro. So if you're looking at the company ones as the macro ones, the team ones are a bit smaller. These are what will you do or what will your department do and deploy? And they are really the steps to take to realize those long-term OKRs that you've put in the company ones. Now, individual ones, those are a bit different as those are set quarterly. So if things change, because life doesn't always go as planned, you can adjust as required. And we're really going to focus on these individual and team OKRs, just given what you folks are doing in your course developing at your ventures. These are sort of really where you want to focus. In addition to that, the team and individual OKRs express sort of the tactics and your results. And everyone has a busy schedule and urgent things to do. They'll constantly pop up, but whatever is reflecting your OKR, that's the priority over everything else. This is why also it's crucial to update your OKRs to see how you're progressing. So this isn't sort of a do it every 3 months and that's it. You're supposed to keep looking at it. For example, within our team at IBZ, we frequently, within our little groups and departments, we look at our OKRs. We see, are we measuring, are we hitting what we're supposed to be hitting? So whether that's in weekly or bi-weekly meetings, like for myself, I work with my team on a monthly basis. We look at our OKRs. So we go, okay, we set our OKRs for this term. What are we doing this month? Have we hit it? Have we not hit it? Are there any concerns? Also, something about OKRs is they give every team and individual a sense of direction and accomplishment. And what that basically means is you've got a good reason to say no. If there's projects or things that are out of the scope of your OKRs, out of your goals and what you're trying to achieve, your objectives, you can say no because it doesn't fit. So that way it brings sort of clarity, but also it sets the guidelines on what should you really be focusing and prioritizing on. And if it's not a priority or tied into your objective, don't worry about it. So I'm going to break in just more each of the ones, what objectives, key results, and initiatives are. So the objectives, again, this is the what. This is what are you trying to accomplish? And really, it's got sort of 3 characteristics. It's aligned with the company OKRs. So again, it's supposed to align with whatever your company is set and support whatever your company's overall goal and objectives are. It's supposed to be high impact. So group objectives should always be, or individual objectives should always be the things that if you achieve them, they'll have a huge positive impact on your entire organization. So achieving your group objectives, just like your company ones, should be a cause for celebration, which if you folks don't know already, celebrate the small victories, because it's sort of that trend of up and down, oh, this is really good. Oh my God, what are we doing? So celebrate those. So that's a segue. And finally, time bound. Keeping group objectives within a short and strict time frame will really help you because that'll encourage focus and allow you to review them in cycles. So you really want to ensure you've got some start and beginning, something that's finite. Also, at the same time, this will help you identify what's working, what's not, and if you need to change course on any of the related group objectives, so you can hit whatever your company OKRs are. The next are key results. This is the how. It's the benchmark on how you track your progress. Generally, there's usually 3 to 5 key results per objective. And there's three characteristics usually found: a high impact, specific, and within influence. When I mean high impact, it's reflect the big change. Something, for example, if you achieve 70 to 80% of your targets, the rest of your organization will notice. And make them tough. If they're easy to achieve, they're not going to be challenging. Set higher goals, sit out of your comfort zone. For example, if you're looking at doing customer validation, if you're thinking 50, maybe bumped up to 80, 100, set that high goal, see if you can achieve it. That way you have an idea of what your limits are, or what your team's limits are. In terms of specific, the group key results should be focused and have a clearly defined scope. So while the company key results will cover things like broad metrics, the group one should measure more granular progress. For example, sales of a specific product. And within influence, group key results should always be things that you measure that you don't do, but you can influence. So for example, writing 10 blog posts is a bad key result. It's something you do. However, on the flip side, if you're achieving 1,000 views on a blog post you wrote, that's a good key result, as it's something you can't control, but you can influence it. And finally, initiatives. This is what we do. As I mentioned before, these are the tasks, projects, activities, and steps you need to achieve your objectives. And they really should have the following characteristics. They should be specific and within control. So again, with being specific, an initiative has to always be specific. Its scope must clearly be defined, and the owner of the initiative must know what to do. It can't be vague like an objective can be. So an initiative must therefore contain verbs which are unambiguous. You can use things like establish, write, launch, visit, release. So objectives can contain less specific verbs such as improve, increase, so more generalized, but you really want to be granular in what you're talking about for your initiatives. And on the flip side, instead of comparing to key results, this is within control. So you should have full control of your initiatives because these are the actions you or your department are going to take.
I got a quick questions.
Yep.
Why did you choose OKRs as your goal setting strategy? Did you find that through like experimentation, or was there a logical reason why you chose OKRs?
Well, I threw everything in a hat and I drew out, no, I didn't do that. Yeah, there was a reason. So there are, again, different frameworks, but for us specifically in the incubator, we chose OKRs because not only are they actionable, but they're measurable goals that you can kind of work through as you progress. Sort of like the business model canvas is a living document. This is a living framework. And, you know, when you're running a startup, things are going to change, especially where you folks are in the early stages. Like your idea might change, information might change. All your objectives could potentially be up for grabs depending on, you know, what truths you're uncovering within customer discovery. So the OKR framework, at least in our opinion, is something that works really well with teams that are in the early stage. It's adaptable, it's measurable, but it's also actionable. All right, cool. Let's keep going. So there are really three sort of benefits of OKRs. And the first one is strategic alignment. And this is ensuring alignment between all departments and teams. It may not be too big of an issue now. I think for you folks, if you are or will be working in groups, it's generally no more than 4 or so people. But even then, potentially, if you're working remote or, you know, you've got other things happening, there could be things that fall through the cracks, or folks might have a different understanding. I remember I've spoken with teams before where before doing OKRs and after, it's a world of difference because they'll have a team discussion of, okay, let's write down our OKRs. What are we going to do? And inevitably, there's a team member that goes, wait a second, that's one of our objectives? I thought it was this. So you really have that alignment and that clarity within team members. So there isn't any misunderstanding. And that potentially could avoid a lot of issues later down the line. Second is team engagement. All members of the venture have their input in. When you're crafting OKRs, you have that group discussion and you figure out, okay, what do we think? How do we want to tackle this? You know, what are the different voices and different opinions? How do we leverage the benefits of having a team or a group. And finally, focused execution. You're prioritizing key items that have to be completed to move the venture forward. You're not focusing on trivial things like, oh, what does this brand color look like? It's more so, okay, what are the big objectives for the company that are do or die? What do we need to do in terms of customer discovery, in terms of our technology and understanding our market, whatever that may be? You're really looking at all of those things that are a priority, and you're able to prioritize. So let's look at some examples right now. I'm going to have two slides. One's going to talk about company OKRs, and the other one is going to talk about individual team OKRs. So for some company OKRs, an example of an objective is you're creating more goal-oriented company. Okay, so what does that mean? Your key results, the X percentage, your key results are up to date every 2 weeks. Another key result is you've achieved X percentage of your objectives, let's say 80%. What's an initiative? Implement OKRs in all departments. Another one could be solidify our finances to set the stage for taking our product to the next level. Pretty vague in that sense, but some key results could be increasing your growth profits from whatever amount, from X to Y. Another one could be generating revenue of whatever dollar amount. An initiative could be developing a sales strategy for whatever market that you want to get into, that you're targeting. A third one is crush the competition through acquisitions. Your key result could be X acquisitions, an initiative, research potential acquisitions. I'm sure there's going to be more for this ones, but you sort of get an idea of how these are structured, how these are written. And by the way, these slides will be shared with you, and I will be providing some templates and materials for you folks that you can work on some OKRs within your groups or for yourselves individually. So next for teams, we're going to go a bit more granular now. An objective is build a healthy and sustainable sales pipeline. So key result is you're achieving a monthly pipeline of $1 million. You achieve 23% deals from enterprise clients. An initiative could be reach out to potential clients using targeted ads. Another one is turn our partner network into a revenue stream. So from here, you're generating whatever the amount is into partner revenue, obtain X new customers from referral partners. And the initiative to get it done is contact partners with the value proposition and speak to them. Again, for initiatives, it's probably going to be more. It's not just one initiative. You probably will have a laundry list of them. I don't really have a specific best practice in the amount. Really, it's up to whatever the situation is, what you need to get done, but you'll have that listed on there. And then the last one, accelerate recurring revenue. The key result is deliver $1 million in subscriptions by Q4. Another key result is increase customer MRR by 5%. The initiative, again, this could be one of many, is attend industry conferences. You probably can be more specific, like blah, blah, whatever conference on this date, and then, keep putting that in there, but that's sort of a quick generalization, and I didn't want to fill the slide with too many examples and spaces. So that's cool, but can we apply this to a non-business situation? Because OKRs at the end of the day are still just a framework. Yes, they're rooted in business, but you could definitely do this just in life in general. So let's take the example of going up to the middle of nowhere. Let's say we want to go to Tobermory, wherever the heck that is. I think it's where planes fly by when you're not going to, the middle of nowhere. Okay, so we want to go to Tobermory next week. And we've set out some key results, getting a bunch of friends. You're going to go up north for God knows why, and then come back to the city because there's nothing out there. Your planned key results are you want to get there in 7 days. You've got a budget of $2,000, and you want to check out 3 scenic trails along the way. Now you go there, you come back. Life kind of happens. Things didn't go according to plan. You actually got there in 5 days, 2 days ahead of schedule, because whoever driving decided I'm just going to drink a lot of coffee and keep driving. And the trip costed $2,200. You were over budget by 10% due to increased coffee costs. And you checked out 4 scenic trails along the way. And because you did one more than you should have, because nature apparently looked nice and people needed those selfies for the gram. So you've got your key results here and what your actuals, but then you could break it down. Let's say on a macro level, what's everyone's objectives? So for example, Grace's objectives, make sure the team is fed throughout the trip. Steph's example, make sure the team has a place to stay every night. Ephra's example, make sure the team navigates to desired locations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now the team members who are, or not team members, sorry, the friends who are in the car all have their goals. Now let's focus on Grace's, and these are going to be her personal OKRs. Again, a recap, hers is to make sure everyone's fed throughout the trip. And her key results are the actual budget is within 10% of the planned budget, so plus or minus. The team is happy with the food. And then her tasks and activities are create the food and drink budget, source food and drink vendors, and all the other activities related to ensure that she's hitting her objective, making sure that the team is fed and it's plus or minus 10% of the budget and everyone's happy. So as you can see from this example of friends going on a trip, even if it's not a startup, you can still apply the OKR framework to even something as non-entrepreneurial as friends traveling. So this is a framework that really at the end of the day is just used to achieve your goals that you're setting. Now, there are some popular questions that folks ask, can one person have more than one objective? Absolutely. That's not a problem at all. Especially in a startup or a small team, you're going to have many different objectives because you're wearing many different hats. But what happens when you need to rely on other people to finish your objective? Well, generally, there is going to be one owner, and that's sort of what we'll talk about in the next question. But it is having that clear coordination of whose roles are what, who's doing what. Which brings me to the second one. Can one person share, more than one person share an objective? More than one person can work on the objective, but there has to be one specific owner. It's really hard if you've split up the objective and go, well, is Jack owning this or is Daniel owning this? If say Reza comes in and needs to help on it, who's going to be the person that is ultimately responsible for achieving this objective? And the last one, what if my OKRs become irrelevant in the middle of the term or quarter? What if I need to change my objective? That's fine. Again, as I mentioned, that's sort of the reason why with OKRs, you will constantly, on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis, check on the progress to see, are you hitting what you're hitting? Do you need to make any changes? If you do need to make any changes, document the reasons why and make those changes. These are meant to be flexible. It isn't once you've set your OKRs, that's it. There's nothing else you can do. So in summary, with OKRs, they help break up big, audacious missions in actionable milestones and goals. And there are OKRs for both your company on a macro level, but also for yourselves or your team. You have them on a more granular micro level. What are you doing? What are your contributions? What are your objectives? Again, OKRs help with ensuring all team members are aligned. And if we're looking at the 80-20 rule, 80% of the issues usually come from 20% of the causes, and a lot of it is miscommunication, misalignment, misunderstanding of what you're trying to achieve. So you get everyone on the same page. At the end of the day, you're setting objectives, you're measuring your progress, and you're executing. So what I've included here are 2 documents for you folks to try this out. You can do this individually or within your assigned groups. The first is an OKR template. This is very similar to what we use in IBZ. The only difference, it's not a fancy platform, but it's exactly what are your objectives, what are your key results, what are your initiatives. The second is the startup vision and strategy template. Now, this template here is a bit more high level. We give it to all of our new teams that join as a good exercise to sort of get everything from your brains onto a piece of paper that everyone can see, everyone can understand. This document looks at your mission, your vision, and it looks at capturing the why. The why are you building what you're building? Why do you exist? Why should people care? I would believe that probably some of this stuff is covered on the academic side, but if not, I do encourage you all to take a look at the vision and strategy template and fill it out if you haven't already. I've also I've also added some appendices on here on just more information on OKRs. There's What Matters. They do a great series on just sort of the basics of OKRs. Purdue has an OKR guide that's pretty robust that goes over exactly, how to write OKRs, what are best practices, and some more other concepts as to when they're a good tool to use and why. And then I've also included an article that quickly just compares and contrasts some of the different goal strategy frameworks against each other. So in this one, it's MBOs, OKRs, and KPIs. What do they have in common? What are they different? That way you get more information to see which one works best for you. But at the end of the day, I talk about OKRs because for IBZ, for what we're doing, we're working with early stage startups, we feel very strongly that OKRs are a great way of measuring your impact and seeing, if what you're doing makes sense. Is it hitting your objective? But for you folks, as I stress many times, like, look into yourself too for goal frameworks. If you don't have one already within your team, I would strongly recommend you adopt one, because if you don't know already, things are going to get more hectic. So it's best to have your goals set out, best to have clarity and not try to remember things or have things, put away in some doc that no one looks at. So besides that, that is the end of this session.